What a difference a year can make. GameMasters here, and back in July of 2022, we were given an Unearthed Arcana playtest document called Wonders of the Multiverse. Nested within that document was a spell called House of Cards. In the Book of Many Things, we also have a House of Cards, and they could not be more different. In the Unearthed Arcana document, the House of Cards was a third-level conjuration spell. It required you to touch the ground and needed a deck of cards as its material component. Casting it would cause a defensive structure to be conjured that was made of massive playing cards. The cards themselves were 5 feet wide and 10 feet tall. This House of Cards was 30 feet by 30 feet with 3 floors that were 10 foot tall each. The second floor was 20 foot by 20 foot on top of that, and then on top of that was a top floor that was 10 foot by 10 foot. Ramps connected the floors, and each card had an armor class of 10 and 1 hit point. They were also immune to poison and psychic damage. Should a card take enough damage to reduce it to 0 hit points, it was destroyed. Each time a card was destroyed, you had to roll a d6. On a 5 or a 6, the entire House of Cards would collapse and the spell would end. And that's all we got. We were left with a big question. There is a line in this that cites that the structure rises with its caster at the center, harmlessly lifting you and any creatures in the area. What happens when the house collapses and you are on that top floor 30 feet up? Do you fall and take fall damage, or do you harmlessly lower to the ground? Well, this is why it was considered playtest material. So when feedback was provided, naturally, things were going to change. Now, before we jump into the House of Cards and how it appears in the Book of Many Things, I need to first thank these Hawk supporters. Their contributions to this channel have been beyond generous, and I cannot thank them enough. If you'd like to see how you can become a YouTube or Patreon supporter, I'll leave a link down in the description, and of course, I'll add your name to this list. In the Book of Many Things, the House of Cards is no longer a spell. It's now an uncommon wondrous item. It is a deck of cards, and while you hold them, you can use an action to shuffle them, and in doing so, the cards will transform into a House of Cards. Instead of it being 30 feet by 30 feet, then on top of that 20 foot by 20 foot, on top of that 10 foot by 10 foot, you can now arrange it however you want, but it must fit within a 40-foot cube area. It will have 1 door and up to 4 windows, which only the person that activated the magic item can open or close. It has a floor and a roof, and is and has a consistent, comfortable temperature inside. Now keep that in mind, because I've got a question for you about that a little bit later in the video. Where the version in the UA saw that each card had an AC of 10 and 1 hit point, the version found in the Book of Many Things sees the cards with overall armor class of 15 and 50 total hit points. It's still immune to poison and psychic damage, and the shelter itself will last 24 hours, or until it's reduced to 0 hit points, or if you dismiss it as an action, at which point it will transform back into a deck of cards and will appear in your hand. Now, while we are not provided with dimensions of the cards, based on the artwork by Brian Valeza, it appears that they have maintained their 5 foot by 10 foot shape, just judging off of the 2 individuals standing on it. But then again, there also appears to be some smaller, almost perfectly square cards. And that is the difference between how the House of Cards appeared in the Unearthed Arcana version versus what we saw here in the Book of Many Things. It's a fairly big change. I'm not entirely clear as to why it was changed from a spell and into an item, but by making it a magic item, that opens it up for a variety of other creatures to make use of it. Which begs this: if anything can use a magic item, uses this. So a moment ago, I mentioned that I had a question. It states that this House of Cards will maintain a comfortable temperature inside. What would that comfortable temperature be should this item be in the hands of something like a fire demon? Could that demon pop up a House of Cards into existence and simply cook anything inside? Would the cards even survive the heat to which that demon found comforting? I'll ask you to ponder that question. Let me know your answer down in the comments. And if you'd like to ponder more of what can be found in the Book of Many Things, be sure to check out this massive playlist. It's only going to grow as I add more content. Oh, and one last question. Based on Valeza's artwork, how many cards do you think made up this House of Cards? And let me know down in the comments too. And until next our paths cross, may you... This is too easy. May you get a full house. That was all in one take.